Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit of a chat because we have some updating to do with you guys. So we have some pretty big news here on the homestead, and we've been kind of keeping it under wraps for a bit because we wanted to make sure it was 100% happening before we shared it. But I think it is finally time to share the news that we are going to be expanding our homestead and adding a couple of new animals here. In just a few weeks, we are going to have 2 Nigerian dwarf goats on our homestead, and we are so excited for this. You might have seen some hints of it in the background of recent videos. Maybe you've seen Aaron building the goat shelter that's behind me right now, which is pretty much all finished, and I'll show that to you later. But yeah, we are just so thrilled for this new development, and we're so excited to have our goats here. And I guess I'll just give you a little bit of like background and context and kind of our plans for these new goats. So the 2 goats that we're going to be getting are from a local farm where they breed Nigerian dwarf goats. They also have sheep there, but we're just getting goats for now. Maybe the sheep will be one day down the road, but just goats for now. Both of them are kids that have been newly born this spring. They were born in the beginning of May. They haven't been weaned yet, so we still have to wait a couple of weeks till we can bring them home. And we're getting 1 doe and 1 wether, who is a castrated male if you're not familiar, because when you get goats you have to have at least 2 because they need to have a buddy. And originally we were thinking of getting 2 doelings, but as we kind of thought about it, since we are planning on breeding the does for milk and for kids later on, we just thought that 2 does was going to be too much for us. From what I've researched, as long as your goats come from good milking genetics, they can produce up to a quart of milk per day when they're in milk, and I feel like that's a good amount for us. But if we were to have 2 quarts of milk a day, I think that's too much because we only have 2 people here. Yeah, 2 quarts of milk for 2 people is a lot for a day. Not that we are planning to have milk like all the time, because obviously you can't just like continuously breed your goats. So I think originally our plan was to have 2 does so that we could kind of stagger the kidding by 6 months. But since we are very new goat owners, we figured maybe we'll just like dip our toes into it, especially with breeding animals. We're like not experienced with that, and we're a little bit nervous about the actual kidding process. So to have to do that with 2 different animals was a little bit more stressful for us, and we figured maybe we'll just try it with 1 doe at first, and if all goes well we can always expand our herd later on. The other thing is that purchasing 2 does up front is more of an investment, whereas getting a wether is a lot cheaper as just like a companion animal. So just for context, we've seen wethers usually go for like 100, and then does, depending on like what their genetics are and if they're registered, they can be between like $400 to $500. So rather than spending almost $1,000 on 2 does, we can spend closer to $500 or $600 for a doe and a wether, and the doe will still have a companion to keep it company. So that's what we decided we're going to do. And we went to the farm recently to see the new kids that were born this spring so that we could choose our doe and our wether. She actually had a really high proportion of females to males this year, so there was actually only one wether available, and we have already placed dibs on him, and luckily he is absolutely beautiful. He's mostly white with like brown spots, and he has blue eyes, and he is super friendly. So I'm really happy that we were able to get the one wether that was born on her farm this spring. And then for the does, we originally went in thinking that we were going to get this one doe who, based on the pictures online, we really liked the way she looked, and online it said she was really friendly. And all of her does pretty much come from good milking genetics, so we're not too concerned about that. And then we went to the farm and saw all of the different does, and we were totally taken by surprise because one of the does that didn't initially catch our eye on the website was the one that we kind of fell in love with. She is kind of like a black and white doe, and she was just really sweet, because the doe that we originally were interested in, she was also very friendly, but almost like too much so, if that makes sense. Like, she had kind of like a manic energy to her. She was like very excitable, and I feel like maybe that was just too much energy for us. Whereas the other doe that we ended up falling in love with, she was very sweet and she was still very friendly. She came up to us a lot for pets, but she just wasn't so like in your face about it, if that makes sense. And I think that's like a better energy for us for our first goat. I'm realizing now it is super loud here with these birds. I don't know if there's a nest in this tree above me. I'm hoping that it is not too crazy in the video, but I just chose this spot because I wanted to record this in front of the goat shelter, so I'm hoping it's not too loud. Sorry if it is. But anyway, we decided to get the black and white doe and that one wether. Their names right now are Iris and Heath. Iris is the doe, Heath is the wether. We're kind of unsure as to whether or not we're going to keep those names or rename them. I guess we'll just see when we get them home and see if their personalities feel like another name would be more appropriate. We don't like hate those names right now. They're pretty nice, but yeah, we'll just see how that goes. But those are the 2 goats that we are going to be bringing home in a few weeks. They're going to be weaned in early July. We're just so excited to have them here. And the owner of the farm said that we were welcome to come see them until they were weaned. So of course we were just like, say less, we will be there right away. And we scheduled another visit with her, which is going to be tonight. So we're super excited to see our little babies again, as long as it doesn't thunderstorm, which it might today. So fingers crossed with that. It literally has not rained here for like a month, and then anytime we plan a visit to the farm to see the goats, I swear it like thunderstorms right before we're scheduled to go. This is like the 3rd time it's happened. We actually were joking with her and saying that we should have just scheduled a visit with her when we needed the rain like a few weeks ago, because every time we schedule a visit, like a thunderstorm comes out of nowhere. It's really bizarre. But anyway, if all goes well, we will be seeing our little baby goats again today, and I will put footage at the end of this video if we do. So stay tuned for that if you want to see really adorable baby goat footage and photos. But like I've said, we're super excited. This has been so long in the making. I think we started talking about getting goats like 2 years ago, and we've just been taking our time doing the preparation, finding a good farm that we trust to get our goats from. So last year in the summer, that was the first time we visited the goat farm. So it was quite a while ago, a whole year, where we knew we wanted goats, and we just wanted to do our research and make sure they were coming from a good place before we actually committed to it. And then we liked her and her practices, and her goats were beautiful, and we said, put us on your list for next spring when you have kids. She actually kids twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring, but since we had gone in the summer, we didn't really think we would be prepared enough to have the kids that were going to be born in the fall, because at that time we had no shelter, no fencing. I mean, we still are not really done with the fencing. We're like maybe 75% of the way there. I'll kind of show you where we're at later on. But the shelter is done. I'll give you a look at that. Erin did a really great job building that. So yeah, we're feeling a lot more prepared. We just have to finish up the fencing, which should only take us a couple more days. We're just waiting for it to not be thunderstorming. So I think it's really good that we waited until we were prepared. We are definitely not the type of people to jump into getting animals really quickly before we're set up, especially for animals like goats, where you do need very, very good sturdy fencing because they will get out and they're really rough on fences because they climb on them. We wanted to make sure that we were like properly investing and setting all the infrastructure up correctly. And I feel like we are in a good place now. So I'm glad we waited those couple of years to get everything set up. And because we've waited so long, we are just so excited. I don't know how many times I can say that, but we're super excited because we've been waiting for so long, and it feels like it's going to be a dream come true to have these goats on our property. Oh, and I guess I'll talk a little bit about like our future plans for them. Most of it's not going to be for a while because they are still kids, so they are going to be growing for quite a few more months before they're considered adults. But once they are adults, we are planning on breeding the doe. The wether obviously won't be bred because he's castrated. He's just going to be a pet animal, which is perfect because he's super friendly and he loves getting pets and scratches. So he's going to be great as a pet and as a goat companion. But our plan for the doe is to eventually breed her for milk and for kids. So the lady at the farm said that she doesn't usually breed until a year and a half to make sure there are no complications, since Nigerian dwarf goats are a smaller breed. I think maybe they could have more complications kidding. So it's going to be quite a while until we can breed Iris. And we are not going to be having a buck at the farm because if you want to have a buck, you need basically 2 of everything because you need to keep them separate from the does. So we would need another companion animal, so that's 2 extra goats just to have a buck. You would need a separate shelter and a separate fencing area. So we did not want to have a buck on this property and double our work essentially. So when it comes time, we talked to her about maybe renting one of her bucks or maybe bringing our doe to her farm so that she could be bred by one of her bucks. That way we don't have to keep a buck on our property like 24/7 and take care of them for the whole year just for that one time of year we would need them. Maybe eventually we'll have a buck, but right now that's not the plan. So yeah, eventually in a couple of years we'll be breeding Iris, and then that's going to provide us with 2 things. We are going to get the milk, which we are planning on consuming as just like regular milk. Instead of cow's milk, we would just have goat's milk. And I am also planning on eventually using that in some skincare products as well. Some of you may know that I sell handmade soap on our Etsy shop. So I would like to add a line of goat milk soap using the goats from our homestead. So that's coming a few years down the road. It's not going to be for a bit, but that's the eventual plan. And the plan for the kids is basically we're just going to wait and see, because I think ideally we would want to sell them to other families so that they could start their herds or have them as pets depending on whether they're females or males. But in all reality, I know that when those first kids are born, we are probably going to want to keep them because we've seen these baby goats. They are just too cute, and I don't know how we can give them up, at least for those first ones, because I think usually you would get between 1 and 3 kids, and I feel like at that point, if we only had 2 goats, we would just probably convince ourselves that a few more is no issue. So yeah, we're just gonna see how that goes. As we get more and more goats, I'm sure we will be more willing to sell them to other families, and yeah, that's the plan for now, I guess. So let me give you a little bit of a look around at the shelter and at the fencing situation right now. So here's a look at the shelter that Aaron built completely from scratch. He like made up his own plans. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm not the one who built this, and he probably has a lot more to say about it than I do. So if you do want to hear a little bit more about it, maybe just leave a comment and I'll let him know if people are interested, and we can do like a separate video talking about how he built it and the materials and maybe the cost and all that. But basically in our climate, they just need a 3-sided shelter, but he did give them a little extra half wall in the front here just to block any wind and rain, because they really don't like getting wet. That's the one thing. They don't mind the heat, but they don't like to get wet. So this is basically just an area for them to come into if it rains. So there's still a lot of stuff in here. We still need to hang a few things up, but we have a bucket over there for their minerals and baking soda. Aaron still has to build a hay feeder, which is going to go on this side, and then we're gonna have water for them in here as well. I think maybe eventually we're gonna build some sort of like water capture system off of this sloped roof, but that's not gonna be for a bit. We're just gonna take it easy for now and just do like old-fashioned buckets. For the fencing, we've got most of the posts that need to be dug already dug and cemented in, and we have most of the T-posts that are going in between the cemented corner posts put in as well. We only have a couple more to go, and hopefully you can see what is set up so far. In the front here, we still need to add our gate and 2 more posts that we're going to be cementing in for either side of the gate. This is going to be the gate, and we have our roll of fencing here. Oh, look at that, one of the first Japanese beetles of the year. Wonderful. So this is the fencing that we're going to be using. It is a woven wire, and the squares are 4 by 4 inches. So that's what that is, and this fencing is probably the biggest expense in getting goats. But you really need like very durable, high quality fencing, and you need to make sure you get woven wire fencing instead of welded wire. So yeah, that's going to be going up soon around the posts and the T-posts. We're going to be doing that in the next few days. So yeah, that's what we've got so far. So that's our big news that we are so happy is finally out there. So you're going to be seeing a lot of goat content coming up very soon, which I hope you're very excited for. We will definitely be including them in videos, of course, but if you do want to see more about them, especially in real time and more like day to day, I will probably be sharing most of that stuff on Instagram. So you can follow us on Instagram if you want to see lots of goat photos, because I'm sure, right, that's going to be our Instagram for like the next few months. So that's going to be it for this video. Just wanted to share that news with you guys and let you know what's coming. I hope you are excited to see the goats, and we are super excited to share more about them. So yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Look at them go! Hi, baby! Oh. Hi! Hi, so cute. Hi, you. She's so cute. Is this Daisy? Look at Daisy. You're so cute. Luckily, it did not end up raining that night, and we were able to go to the goat farm to see the goats and the kids again. And immediately when we were there, Iris came right up to us and she was really friendly, so we were really happy about the choice that we made, and she was just so adorable and sweet. Her and all of her siblings are just the sweetest goats. She is one of triplets, and all 3 of them were does, and at one point all 3 of the siblings were just getting pets and treats from us. And I'm not gonna lie, we seriously considered getting all 3 of them as triplets, and we were just telling ourselves how nice would it be if we just kept the family all together if we adopted all 3 of the triplets. You can see all 3 of them here now in a row, and they're just all so cute. Like, it was so difficult for us to choose just one doe, and you can tell that they're super friendly. They love getting pets and they love getting treats. We were giving them animal crackers that were broken up into little pieces. That's supposed to be one of their favorite little treats. You can also kind of see their mom on the right side. She's the one that is kind of like black and white in the front, and she has some brown in the back. And when I was going back and looking at the photos of the first time we visited the farm, I realized that we met her last year, which I thought was really cool that we met her last year before she had these babies, and now we're adopting one of her kids. Now you can see Heath here. He's the one that's mostly white, and he also has like a blue collar. He is super friendly, and he especially loves when you give him scratches on his shoulder. So once I reached in and started doing that, and Aaron was doing it as well, you can just kind of see the bliss on his face. The one on the right here is Daisy. She was the one that we had initially thought that we wanted to adopt as our doe, and you can see how she just gets right on up there. She is really outgoing. She's also really beautiful. She has a more refined appearance about her. But the other thing that also made us choose Iris rather than Daisy is that she does kind of look like Heath, so we thought that maybe it would be better to get a doe that looked more different from the weather so that we could tell them apart a little easier.